What's going on, degenerates? Welcome to the Undefeated post-weigh-in show, and I have to apologize right off the bat. I look like shit. I'm all scruffy. I need a haircut. You can see my chest hair hanging out of my shirt. Your boy's sick. I'm a little under the weather. I'm hanging on for dear life. You guys know the memes that are always running around where it's like women giving birth and they're like gritting their teeth or whatever. It's like men with a slight cold, and we're like, I'm dying. Like that's literally me right now. I've got a cold. My throat's a little sore. I haven't slept well in like 2 days. My nose is runny, and I'm like, somebody just kill me. Like, I'm over it. I'm so over it. It's like, if I'm gonna be sick, I would rather be like all the way sick. This little bit, like I'm like 78%. This is bullshit. Everything sucks just a little bit. Like, I'd rather be passed out on the couch with my wife bringing me like a warm bowl of soup. I need to be that bad, because right now I can still do everything just fine. It just sucks. So I'm gonna apologize. I'm gonna try and power my way through this thing, and then we're gonna make some money tomorrow. It's gonna be an awesome card. UFC 298. Geez, look at that. See, the brain is just not switched on. I almost said 280 something. Welcome in, everybody. Thank you all for being here. If you're new to the show, what we do on this one is we go back over everything. You know, we broke down everything on Monday. We have an awesome guest come in, help us talk about these fights, and then we do additional study throughout the week, because 5 days is a long time to not be looking at MMA. We're in the DMs with all the boys, all the sharp people that we know and love, and guests of the show, and then we watch them face off. We put all that info together, and that's what this show is. We take one final look at these MMA fighters. We take one final look as they face off, and sometimes even just like the size difference between these fighters is really the difference, because UFC stats is never right at all, ever. So definitely my favorite show of the week. It's most people's favorite show of the week. It's a little bit shorter than the Monday show, but we get to get into it and have a good time. What is up, everybody? I see you all in the chat. We got Joe Free, we got Nunya in the house, we got Carrillo going on, Mitchell Reyes, appreciate you. Thank you, my friend. Steven Jackson saying, are you ever going to collaborate with Narco? Actually, Narco is a regular guy that I collaborate with. I love Narco Cop MMA. Unfortunately, I think we're going head to head a little bit here. His show's in like 20-30 minutes or something like that, so I would prefer to wrap up before he goes live, so we're not bumping heads here. But Narco's been a guest on the podcast before. He's actually had me on the Lambo Plays podcast once or twice as well, so we go back and forth. Unfortunately, our schedules just haven't been meshing up. Actually, I tried to schedule him for one of these upcoming recent shows, and my Monday time slot doesn't work out for him. So nothing but love for Narco and Tim, and we will get it together one of these days. Just unfortunately gotta wait for things to be cleared up schedule wise so we can get that going again. But all right, everybody's rolling in. There they are. What's up, Voodoo? We got D, we got Detroit versus everybody. Let's go. OP second 718. That's a mouthful. Let's fucking go. All right, everybody, hit the like button for me, and let's go ahead and get into this thing. You know what? I got to get that little thing off. I don't know why. Whenever they group us in settings, it mixes people's shit on Pub Sports. I don't know. Never mind. Anyway, tech stuff, back end stuff. You don't need to know about it. First fight of the night: Andrea KGB Lee. She takes on Miranda Maverick. We've got Lee coming in at 125.5. Miranda Maverick 126. And I'm pleasantly surprised today. There wasn't a whole lot of drama when it came to the weigh-ins or anything like that for much of anybody, quite frankly, except one. And, we'll talk about that one a little bit later when we get to it. But, Andrea Lee, great shape, looking good. She looks like she, per her Instagram, she's been doing a lot of, physical workouts and stuff. She's one of those people that's always, I think she's underrated strong. Now, obviously, Miranda Maverick's going to have a strength advantage over her. She's short, she's squat, she's much broader. But I think people expect Andrea Lee to not be quite as powerful physically as she actually is. It was funny though. Miranda Maverick came up rocking a cowboy hat, and that's KGB's move. So she's got to be like messing with her, coming up wearing the exact same black hat. This was a fun little face off. Lee obviously taller, Miranda thicker, and my opinion of this fight has not changed whatsoever. I put a 1 unit bet on Andrea Lee. I think she's live in this spot. Miranda Maverick, I think regularly is just overvalued. I've got so many different angles when it comes to women's MMA. I really could talk myself into a hole. But Miranda Maverick, she's got that physicality, right? And I always say physicality will take you places in MMA. If you're more powerful than your opponents, you'll be able to out grapple them, you'll be able to out hustle them, and the women just can't seem to overcome it or combat it the way some of the men can. Maverick has that. However, she is smaller. So, like, think back to Jillian Robertson. Like, if she gets into control positions, you're in serious trouble, but there's a limit to that. Now, obviously, Miranda, much more physically powerful, much more effective than someone like Jillian Robertson. So it's not quite the same degree, but just an example. But Andrea Lee, she's going to split decision with some of the best fighters in the world, and her Achilles heel has always been that grappling. And so because of that, I think this is a spot where we've got like a veteran who's been hanging around kind of near the top, but never quite able to break through. 6 losses in her last 8 fights, but 3 of those by split. Her record could look insanely different with just a couple different judges sitting behind the desk. And in fact, when she goes to her own offensive wrestling, it's actually pretty dang effective. And we saw Maverick has been on the bad end of some takedowns. Like, she can actually be taken down or hip tossed herself. So I just think the line is a little bit too wide. Kind of your classic women's MMA spot. Striker versus grappler. I expect Lee to be winning the striking exchanges when they're on the feet. And then I am a little bit worried if Miranda Maverick gets her down a little too early, a little too often, that kind of thing. But we're also in the big cage. It's pay-per-view time, and I know the small cage really helps grapplers. They can get you pinned up against the fence a whole lot easier. Andrea Lee hopefully can keep this thing at space, at distance. Might be a stretch. This one might be like a really thin one here. We might root for a split decision yet again and hope the judges gift us the right side of it. But I think damage over control, as long as KGB doesn't get submitted, and she is really tough to finish, by the way, I do think she'll be able to pull this one off. I think the line is just a little bit too wide. So I am on Andrea KGB Lee. Next up, you've got Oban Elliott taking on Val Woodburn. A couple guys that I don't know a whole lot about. And I was honest about that on Monday, and not a whole lot's changed when it comes to that. Val Woodburn, he's one of these brick shithouse type of fighters, right? He's short, he's squat, he's broad, everything is muscle. Oban Elliott, much larger, better frame for the division, because it's not like he's short on muscle either. He's not one of these tall, lanky, skinny type of muscle guys. Like, no, he's pretty damn built as well. So size advantage goes to Oban Elliott. He weighed in 170 and a half, 169 and a half for Val Woodburn. I said this line was maybe a little bit wide on Monday, but again, that's just me not really knowing much about Elliott. I kind of think it's justified at this point. I mean, I really think Val Woodburn only has a puncher's chance in this fight. I really do. We've seen Oban Elliott knocked out twice. We've seen him be extremely hittable, and that right there is the problem. Because yes, Oban Elliott should be the favorite. He should be better everywhere. He should win this fight almost however he wants to. But when you're fighting somebody who's a tank and hits the way that Val Woodburn does, and that's kind of your Achilles heel, is that you just have mental lapses and let your opponent get off on offense sometimes. That's exactly why we're not laying minus 300 on a guy like that right now. So I'm going to pick Oban Elliott to win. I'm going to wish all of you luck when it comes to the parlays. If you've chalked this guy up, I mean, it's one of those ones where I'm probably like jumping at shadows, and then he looks like $1,000,000 on Saturday and he does go ahead and get the win, but I'm too scared to throw him in a parlay because I'm not sure he's going to be able to patch up all those holes and keep it together. Jared saying cooking up another stimulus check tomorrow night. Hopefully so. You guys can hear me. I'm about to damn near lose my voice while I'm trying to go through this thing. Sorry about that. Dan, completely agree. Gonna be an awesome card. This is one of those ones. It's a little more low level for a pay-per-view, especially. Like, there's a lot of mid to low level fights here on this one, but I think it sets up nicely for violence. What's up, Kevin? Thanks for coming in here. Kent as well. How's everybody doing? All right. Let's freaking go. Next fight up, we have got Danny Barlow taking on Josh Quinlan. Barlow 171, Quinlan 169. Both guys look great on the scale. Danny Barlow is big. He's one of these guys that's a bit taller, a bit lankier, that kind of thing. Josh Quinlan is, even though he's tall and long, he's also, built very thickly. Slight size advantage for Barlow here at this one, but a very, very good stare down between these guys. Got real intense up there. I am very, very interested in like the over 1.5. Over 1.5 is -140. Danny Barlow has his entire game built around that left hand. His fight name is Left Hand to God. He's got crazy power. He's explosive. He's athletic. I love this guy. I really do. I think he's got a high ceiling. I think he's got a bright future in the UFC. And it seems almost like the UFC is ready to like turn around and sell on Josh Quinlan. But the problem is these fighters don't always follow the narrative, right? Sometimes they just don't go away when they're supposed to. So I could absolutely see Josh Quinlan coming out here with a bit of a chip on his shoulder. And you guys have all seen it. Like, this is one of those ones where the angle is completely public, right? We've all seen the video clips of Danny Barlow getting mauled on the regional scene. We've all seen him getting taken down time and time again. And it really seems to be a big hole in his game. If it's a problem on the regional scene, probably going to be a problem at the UFC level. And Josh Quinlan actually can wrestle decently well. He's got decent hand speed himself. He's got decent power himself. So it's another one where I'm like, yay, do we really play the -225 favorite Danny Barlow here in this spot? Josh Quinlan's defense is a bit of a problem. I do think Danny's going to land. It all comes down to that chin. Can Quinlan hang around? Can he stay tough? Can he stay durable? Can he stay conscious? And if he can hit a couple of takedowns, things get real interesting in this fight. I think the over 1.5, like I said, I don't really want to pick a side. I think Quinlan can hang in there at least early. And especially if he goes to the grappling, I think he'll be able to get Danny Barlow down. And then it'll be kind of a chess match throughout the rest of the fight. That's one that I'm kind of looking at. I might actually add it. I don't have an official bet on it or a play on it or anything like that, but I do actually think I'm going to add the over 1.5 in that one. Now, it could look stupid in hindsight, obviously. If Josh is off the goods, Barlow might nuke him in the first round, but save getting caught with a big one early, I think Josh is going to be able to at least survive for a round in this fight. Next up, you've got Zhang taking on Brenson Ribeiro. I've been struggling with this one, guys. I'll be honest with you. I've been having a tough time all week with this fight. Oh, you know what? Let's see here. Zhang made 204.5. Brinson 205.5. And that guy's got abs all day. Let me tell you, Brinson Ribeiro, he's your classic jiu-jitsu player with like an 8-pack abs because he's throwing up triangles and R bars in training and shit like that all the dang time. He's got ab muscles I'm very jealous of. This was a great stare down, by the way. Both these guys very intense. Ribeiro slightly larger here. I do like to see that. Zhang is coming off of the road to UFC, and he's fought nothing but cans. Absolute bums. So he looks like $1,000,000, but it's because he's fighting freaking nobody. Now, Ribeiro, he's not perfect at all. In fact, he might be just a little bit fragile, and that's kind of the thing that worries me. He could get starched here. He could get starched early. But he's so long. He's so lanky. I believe he's a BJJ brown belt. And I think that's the edge here because both these guys end up making dumb choices. They end up in scrambles. They fall to the floor. They both jump guillotine. They both go for like low percentage style submission attacks, and they end up on bottom and have to like fight their way out of those positions. And because of that, I feel like Brinson is going to have the more BJJ upside. And because of that advantage, he should be able to potentially catch Zhang in some kind of a submission. That's 6-1. That's kind of this is the one where I'm like, I'm not going to pick a side when we're talking pick 'em money, even money, make an easy bet. No. I'll shoot for the stars and I'll look for a 6-1 here on the sub. I think this fight's going to be violent, though. I think Zhang could easily clip and knock out Ribeiro. I think Ribeiro could hurt Zhang on the feet. I think both these guys have the submission opportunity, and both them fight with that Dana White's Contender Series style violence where it's just going to be head-to-head until somebody dies. This fight should be over relatively quickly, in my opinion. But I kind of like the value on Ribeiro's sub. And if I have to pick, I am going to pick Ribeiro to win this fight, but not sure exactly what we're getting with here. We're going to have to learn a little bit about these guys in the next 2 fights or so. Yeah, I can. Sprinkle away, everybody. All right. Next fight up, we've got Rinyat Nakamura taking on Carlos Vera. Both guys made 135.5 pounds. Rinyat was one of the few people on the scale today that really looked like he struggled. Looked like he was having a tough time. He was up there like legit like praying as they were like checking his weight. I think old boy had a tough weight cut. Like, I know everybody has a tough weight cut, but it looks like this one was particularly rough for Rinyat. Nakamura. He does have the size advantage. Vera, I believe, is a guy who fights a weight class down very naturally. He's built pretty well, though. Vera is not a small man. He's very broad. He's got a big back on him. So this one might not be as easy as the minus 1400 money line would potentially suggest. Obviously, I'm picking Rinya Nakamura. I do think he finishes. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I mean, I say that like obviously he's a wrestler. He could grind his way to a decision victory. It could fly over, and Vera just ends up like shelling up and protecting himself on bottom and stuff like that for 15 minutes. It's real hard to finish somebody who doesn't want to fight. We've seen this time and time again, where if a fighter has determined that they're going to lose, they just kind of shell up. They go into protection mode. They're not looking to win. They're not looking for that Hail Mary. They're not about to try to get a bonus. They're not looking for fight of the night. They just don't want to lose brain cells, which frankly, I can't blame them. And when that happens, it's hard for the fighter, even if they're the better fighter, to get the finish. Now, in this case, with that huge grappling advantage, Nakamura should be able to get the takedown. That opens up submissions, ground and pound. There's not a whole lot you can do when you're getting dominated by somebody physically like that. The finish probably still happens. So I think it's Rinya. I think it's Rinya inside the distance. I'd be tempted on the sub, if I'm being honest. But this is one where I'm not familiar enough with Rinya Nakamura's game to know if he's just going to go ham. You know, some of these guys do the gorilla ground and pound thing when they get on top of people. And if he wants to do that until the ref pulls him off, that's it. That's his call. You know, some people like to be a little slick and savvy about it, show off what they've got and, you know, sync up a choke, grab a neck, something like that. It's really his oyster, right? The world is his oyster. He can do whatever he wants to do. Next up, you've got Marcos Rogerio de Lima taking on Junior Tafa, not Justin Tafa, Junior Tafa. You heard that correct. This is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. And this is why mixed martial arts is the best sport on the freaking planet, because stuff like this doesn't happen in other sports. It just does not happen. This is straight up like the kicker gets in a football game, like the kicker gets his leg broken and they're like, bro, we don't have another kicker. And they like call some guy out of the stadium, not even a guy wearing a jersey, put a helmet on him. And they're like, kick the game winning field goal. And he goes out there and it's like movie stuff, man. This is the weirdest thing. So Justin Tafa is injured. Now, how long they knew about that, obviously, we don't know, right? This is one of those things where I'm like, man, did they really have to wait until weigh-in day to tell us that he had an injury? It seems like he probably could have said something about that a little bit earlier. But Marcos Rogerio de Lima ends up fighting a Tafa Jr., who is there, who's been training with his bro, just is like, hey, I'll fight. And there's 5 minutes left. That's the big kicker. So with the commissions, you have to weigh in, and it's like an amount of time before you fight type of thing. So they wouldn't have been able to book this fight and have Junior weigh in at like noon because he would have missed the window where it's like legally allowing him to get the fight. He weighs in with 5 minutes left on the clock. And they're like, all right, we're good. So they're just swapping Tafa bros and rolling straight on into this thing. It's unbelievable. So Marcos de Lima, 261, Junior Tafa, 249. And I think that's a factor, right? The grappling advantage in this fight is really the big story. And that was the big story to begin with. Big edge for De Lima on the ground when fighting either Justin or Junior Tafa, right? Junior Tafa, taller, lankier than his brother, much less experience than his brother. Justin has been around a whole lot longer than Junior has. Junior's just getting his feet wet. But again, this is where it gets interesting because Marcos Rogerio de Lima definitely still has that grappling edge. But Junior Tafa was scheduled to face a wrestler in his next fight. And so he's been doing nothing but drill takedown defense. Like you go look at his Instagram and it's all him doing wrestling work. And you may not be able to catch up to like a world-class grappler in a couple of months. You can't. It's impossible. But the one thing these strikers can do is improve their cardio and their get-up game. Like if you can keep the distance so you don't get taken down in the first place, and you can learn how to stand up when you do get taken down, those two things, all of a sudden you're competitive. If you can just get those two things down. Junior Tafa is very young. It's been 8 months since we saw him fight, and he's been doing nothing but get ready for a wrestler since. So I'm extremely tempted, guys. I had a bet on Justin Tafa at plus 120, And Junior Toffa is currently sitting. He was about plus 170 the last time I looked. Let me see where that line has gone. They moved it. Of course, they moved it around, and now I can't find it. Those bastards. Okay, I apologize. I can't find it. I'm not going to waste this part of the show looking for it. But he was plus 170 the last time I saw it. And so that's what we're going to go with. And oh, it looks like it came down a little bit, plus 164. See, somebody out there's thinking the same way I am. I just can't get behind Marcos Rogerio de Lima. The one thing that people are not talking enough about, in my opinion, is the teeth situation, right? Like, we called the Black Beast upset. Junior Toffa doesn't have anywhere near the power of the Black Beast. But when Derek Lewis knees you in the face and you're doing interviews and you're talking about how bad it hurts to eat because your teeth are all fractured and broken and loose in your skull, and then you turn around real quick and take another fight, I gotta wonder how much he's going to be able to take any sort of damage. And that's not necessarily giant power shots, even just like your regular average, like looking to knock you out type of punches in the UFC. If your teeth are already feeling that way, I got to wonder if you're not going to go down. And Marcos Rogerio de Lima is the type of guy that kind of packs up his bag and takes his ball home when he's done. So he's probably going to come out here really quick looking for an early finish. And if he doesn't get it, then he is probably going to quit and go home. I kind of like the under 1.5 in this fight now that they've just actually opened that up. It's about minus 165. I don't mind under 1.5 because I think Marcos Rogerio can kind of school Toffa early on and take him down, drag him to the floor, choke him out. He's going to have such a big grappling advantage. But if he doesn't do that, I think Toffa's styling on him on the feet. And if that happens, I don't think he can take the offense coming the other way. I think Toffa will finish him. So I definitely like violence here in this spot. I actually think Junior Toffa might be an upgrade from Justin Toffa, because while Justin has that like big one hitter quitter uppercut type of power, Junior is faster and Junior has more volume. On top of that, he's got more tools. I mean, even just go back to the Parker Porter fight. He's got that big clinch knee that hurts Porter in the very first round. He's got elbows in tight. Like, he just does shit that Justin doesn't do. He's so much more fluid on the feet. And I think that could be a problem for someone like De Lima. I really think Lima's going to need to get this thing out of there on the first takedown. And if he doesn't, it's Toffa's fight to win. So call me crazy. I might just walk it right back and go to war with Toffa. Toffa gang, baby. Like, I may just bet Toffa, even though it's the other guy, because we're getting a better number. And I actually think it's somehow an upgrade. I don't know if Justin has been drilling takedowns the same way that Junior has. I can see photographic evidence that Junior is working on that get up game. I don't know if Justin ever did. Dan in the house. Thank you very much for the dono, my friend. Very much appreciate you. The content will keep coming. Sunshine, rain, or sickness, I will be here. You guys know that. Next up, Mackenzie Dern takes on Amanda Lemos. We've got Dern making 116. She was the last fighter to weigh in today. Amanda Lemos, 115.5. This was a really good face-off. Another one where it's like height versus thickness. Dern has that grappling body. And to Bobby Green, Bobby Green getting caught in 4K. He gets up there and he's like, damn. Like, all of us heard it. Like, we're all thinking it, Bobby. It's okay. We're all thinking it. We're in the boat together. But it was absolutely hilarious for him to be on live stream getting caught, noticing Dern at the weigh-ins. Pretty freaking hilarious. Amanda Lemos at these face-offs, by the way, folks, she was wearing shoes. So when they face off, she's got that extra like half inch to an inch because Dern is flat-footed. She's barefoot up there for the face-off. So Lemos is not quite as big as it would seem when they did that face-off. Dern a little bit thicker, Lemos a little bit taller. And I'm already on Dern in this spot. If you guys want to go back and watch the Sharp Action Report, first off, yes, please. Thank you. Second, the big guy from Superbook Sports is on Mackenzie Dern, I found out. And I really love this spot for Dern because she went from being somebody everybody felt like it was worth it to lay minus 200 against Jessica Andrade, and now she's an underdog to Amanda Lemos. And the argument is that they're basically the same, right? And this fight should go the exact same. The problem is it's not even close. So Jessica Andrade is a BJJ black belt. Yes, she's been taken down by, bigger, more powerful grapplers, wrestlers, put on her back. She's tapped a couple times. So a lot of people kind of forget that she's got that grappling in her toolkit. However, that came into play big time when she fought Mackenzie Dern, because Mackenzie Dern has always struggled with the wrestling. She's a world-class BJJ player, but she's not a wrestler. When she clinches up, She's just physical. She bullies you to the cage. She tries to body lock and drag you to the ground. She'll jump guard. She'll jump on your back. She'll climb you like a tree. These are the ways that she gets the fight into the grappling realm. And Andrade is all lower body. She's got those running back thighs. She's got those tree trunks. She's got great balance, and she knew to bail out immediately. So every time you got Mackenzie Dern looking for like a front choke, or she was trying to like tie her up, she just did everything she could to like back off and run out of there. The other difference, not counting the submission defense, is the cardio. We have seen Amanda Lemos get really, really tired. Like out of the first round, after she takes her big couple of shots to try to win the fight, she wears down. She slows down. She cannot keep up that kind of pace or explosivity throughout the full 15 minutes of the fight. And that's why the couple fights that have got extended have ended up being a little bit close, or she's lost them like that. That's just kind of her thing. If Mackenzie Dern doesn't get popped early in round one, which she absolutely could get cracked in the first round. We've seen her get stronger the deeper the fight goes. And I think she's going to wear Lemos out, especially physically speaking. Lemos is not going to have that same submission defense that someone like Andrade did to bail out of those positions. She might get tied up. She might get tangled up, and it's going to take extra effort. There's going to be that panic when those types of situations arise, and that's going to drain the gas tank. I think this is Mackenzie Dern round 2, round 3. And I'm going to play the sub prop. It's on FanDuel plus 300. I am on Mackenzie Dern money line. And folks, after we lost Justin Taffa, I'm not about to like pile on some brand new pick, add a play, something. No, this is the dog of the week. All right. So Justin Taffa was our dog of the week to start. He's off the card, and I'm not going to add a new play. We were on Mackenzie Dern to start the week. We made that play on Monday. That's the dog of the week. She's being upgraded to the Link Memorial dog of the week. Mackenzie freaking Dern. Let's go. Fender, good to see you, my guy. Appreciate you being here to hang out. Next up, we've got Anthony Fluffy Hernandez taking on Roman Kopylov. Kopylov, sorry. I hear you all in the chats. With the ethnicities in MMA, the different pronunciations of the words, what is it? With Brazil, R's or H's, right? Like it's Rodriguez instead of Rodriguez. For whatever reason, I see Kopylov and I think Kopylov, and I don't know. I'm not sure where that came from. Maybe I heard it mispronounced once and I've just copied it ever since. But I will work on that. I'm sorry. I see you guys all in the comments. Roman Kopylov. This is one of those ones where my brain is a little different than what's actually on paper, right? Fluffy Hernandez is definitely the smaller fighter. He usually is, but it's not as significant of a difference as I expected it to be. I thought Roman was much, much larger for this face-off. I really expected a much bigger size discrepancy here between these two fighters. Very respectful face-off, very quick face-off. The one thing I will say is Anthony Hernandez looks to be damn near in the best shape of his life. Like this guy usually is a little soft around the midsection. Like he's not your super impressive or intimidating physique or anything like that, but he's got no baby fat on him. Like you're starting to see some abs around that. Like it looks like he's in really great shape. And one thing that I maybe don't note enough is that cardio and durability sometimes are directly linked. Like when you're out of shape, you don't recover well. When you're in shape, you can come back from shots that maybe would have got you earlier. We see it all the time with these fighters that are quote unquote chinny. When they come in their next fight to make a statement, to they leave it all out there. They don't end up getting finished. Like Tony Ferguson is a perfect example of this. He came back from that giant shot from Paddy Pimblett because he was in insane cardio shape. Is his chin gone? Is he dust? Yeah, he is. But he was able to survive that one and come back from it. And that's the kind of thing where Anthony Hernandez, he's a cardio machine, man. I think Kopylov has to connect early. I think Roman Kopylov has to hit him early and change the direction of this fight. Otherwise, it's just going to be like a chain grappling fest from Fluffy. Kopylov has worked really hard on his grappling. He's got great hips. He's got a great sprawl. He's a very dangerous striker, but he's also not really the one hitter quitter type, right? Like this is a guy that does require some volume. This is a guy that beats people up and gets them out of there in like the second or the third round. As you're fading, he'll keep attacking your body until you give up and fold over. I don't think that works on Fluffy, because Fluffy's not going to get stuck on the outside of those types of shots. Fluffy's going to be right in your face. He's going to be draped around your leg. He's going to have you in a body lock. Like he's not going to stand there to be hit for 5 straight minutes for those to start accumulating and work. I know a lot of people are on Anthony Hernandez this week. I like him to win the fight. I haven't actually done anything as far as a bet goes, mostly because this thing opened up close to pick 'em, and now it's like minus 250 fluffy. I feel like anytime I take those spots, I'm like part of the mush of the week. And then everyone just kind of all dies together because we all were on the same side of a fight. And in fact, it's actually a coin flip, and Roman just hits him with like a big flying knee or some shit in round one, and we all cry with our, those of you who have CLV will cry about the CLV tickets burning, and those of us who jumped on late are gonna cry because our parlays are in shambles. So I may actually leave this one alone. I do like the round 2, round 3 sprinkles for Anthony Hernandez though, because I don't think he'll take Roman out early, and I think he's got to kind of overcome some stuff to be able to get him in a spot where he can finish him. I like the round 2, round 3 sub myself, especially because he's such a BJJ player. I expect him to go for a sub more than go for a KO. He's also the smaller guy, and that's something that I've noticed sometimes. The smaller guys have to kind of hang on for dear life, right? So like when you're ground and pounding, you have to kind of like posture up, you have to rear up and get that opportunity to find the opening, find that shot for the elbow, pull back with the arm. That gives the big guy an opportunity to scramble. They've got the strength advantage. They can buck you when you make that move. But if you stay tight, if you're jujitsu player anaconda and you're always just like on them, smothering them, doing this, you find your way in around the net. Like the BJJ guys just kind of smother you, and they find that little tight window to get the neck. So I do still think it's going to be fluffy by sub, fluffy late. Don't mind it. And I wouldn't hate it, with the parlay. I may degen out and I may throw a parlay together with him in it anyway, but I'm just telling you guys at this point, we've kind of missed the boat. So maybe not. Adrian, thank you very much, my friend. Absolutely going to keep kicking in here. Problem is, I'm trying to beat my nose here. I'm trying not to sniffle into the microphone, and I'm also trying not to let like the snot drip down my face because I'm sick before the show is over. So like I'm trying to hustle so I don't like cough all over the mic and gross you guys out. We got just a couple fights left. Thank you all so much for being in here. It really means the world to me. I love seeing all you guys, all the names. My guy Leon, happy to have you all here. Thank you for being here and supporting the show. Henry Cejudo up next, taking on Merab Dvalishvili. 135 for both guys. Both looked absolutely fantastic on the scales. And Henry a little bit more dialed in than normal, not necessarily the king of cringe this week. Merab, on the other hand, he is making all the jokes. I love that he claimed Mexico because that was the weirdest political stunt that Henry ever pulled, saying that he's like never gonna hold up the Mexican flag and crap like that when he was trying to, bait to the Republicans like 5 years ago, wherever that was. I love that Merab pulled that out of the bag. I love that Merab went back to it and was like, nope, I'm claiming Mexico for my own, baby. Fantastic. That's why I love Merab. I've always loved that guy. But this one's killing my babies, guys. Henry Cejudo, until very recently, was like my most profitable fighter ever, right? Like when he made his run to the title, you guys saw me. I bet on him every single time. It was always plus money. The KO was always stupid numbers, and we just kept hitting them over and over and over again. And I bet on him again against Aljo, and I thought he won that fight, frankly. But this fight, I mean, he's put all his chips in the middle, right? He said that he's going to retire if he does not win this fight on Saturday. First and foremost, R word. We've talked about that. As soon as that enters your brain, it's a negative. Now, for Henry Cejudo, I give him just like a little bit of grace because, as my co-host on Monday pointed out, he's already retired. So it's not the same thing as making that first decision to retire. He's come back already. Second thing, he truly believes that he won the title fight. He truly believes that he beat Aljo. So he's making another run at it. He knows he's on the level where he can compete with the guy that holds the belt. So it's not quite as detrimental, I don't think, as like normal R words where we really think like, oh, you've got a foot out the door already. This is going to be an extremely competitive fight. I hate how wide this line is. I really do. Merab minus 270. Guys, just last fight, I was betting Merab plus 200 against Piotr Jan. Like, why did he go from plus 200 to minus 300? Like, that's too big of a swing. I know everybody's down on Henry Cejudo. I know the whole thing was really weird with him, like, fake firing his coach, but then the coach isn't in the group photo, so he's not really fired, but he might actually be fired. Like, something's off with Henry this week. Something's really wrong with Henry Cejudo. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that when the chips are down, you made it to the title and you went to a split decision with the current champion of this weight class, and then you decide to clean house all the people that got you there. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, now don't get me wrong. Sometimes, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? But like sometimes you got to get out of your comfort zone to really grow. And I understand that. But this isn't a young fighter who needs to grow and turn a new leaf. This is an older existing fighter with an established skill set, with a great rapport, with a wonderful gym, with like all the pieces were already there to make you a champion. And you're going to clean that out for what is potentially your last fight. That's a red flag to me. I really don't like that as much. But if we're talking just numbers, Cejudo plus 220 is stupid. That's stupid. Like I don't understand. I can't in good faith tell you guys to play Marab at minus 270, minus 300. Now, I think the most likely outcome of this fight is Marab by decision, because Marab is not much of a finisher. Henry Cejudo is incredibly durable. There's going to be a lot of grappling going on in this fight, and Marab is like a pillow-fisted cardio machine. So I think Marab by decision at minus 135 is the way to play this fight if you're going to play it at all at this stage. I think the over 2.5, that's chalky as all get out, minus 330. Really, the only thing you've got to, fade is like someone slipping on a banana peel and getting knocked out. Like neither of these guys really should be finishing in a 3-round fight. So it should go over 2.5. If you're going to lay that kind of chalk, I would lay it on the total rather than the side personally. I know there's been some weird rumors like floating around that something's wrong with Henry Cejudo, besides what I was talking about, like coming off the shoulder injury and, stuff like that. I do have some bad flashbacks because the last time a fighter hid a shoulder injury was TJ Dillashaw. And I like double, triple, quadrupled down on TJ Dillashaw because the line didn't make sense to me. And then we found out the day of the fight after he lost that he had lost his shoulder and was just kind of trying to hold it together with duct tape and make it through. I lost a pile that day, folks. I lost an absolute pile because I didn't know about the injury and didn't put the pieces of the sketchy puzzle together. So I'm not about to get into it this time. I'm not about to dive headfirst into this spot because I can't play Henry Cejudo with all these questions surrounding him, even though the number is stupid. And I can't play Marab at minus 270 because he shouldn't be that big of a favorite in the first place. Marab by decision, minus 135. I think that's the way to go if there's something that's like a single bet play that you want to make on this fight. Next up, Ian Machado Gary takes on Jeff Neal. Both guys made 170.5 pounds. Ian Machado Gary looked fantastic. Cringy as all get out, though, at that presser this time. Oh, boy. Like, he's always cringy. He's kind of lost the MMA fan base the way things have gone for him. But like doubling down on it, love to hate the guy. Jeff Neal, though, he looked really great. And the one thing that stepped out to me almost immediately was that Neal looks skinnier. Did you guys notice that? He talked about how the shirt from Ian Gary really like motivated him coming into this fight. And I'm like, you can see it. Like he's not nearly as puffy as he usually is. And again, he's built like a Greek Adonis. Like the guy's got an incredible body. I can't like say that you could get more impressive than that, but he's leaner. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of thing where I'm like, shit, like he did his extra cardio. This guy got the extra road work in. He put one more extra round in every single time for this camp. And you can see it. He looked thinner. I like it. Great stare down. Ian Machado Gary is the taller man, but it was funny because they joked a little bit at the presser. It was a little bit of respect. It was a little bit of fun. Neal said he'd shake his hand. There was no fun in this face-off. It got very, very intense as soon as they got eye to eye with their shirts off. Both guys, very intense. I love the look in Neal's face. He's a guy that can be a little bit of a head case, and when he's motivated the way that he is for this fight, I think that could be trouble in some cases. Another spot where, Ian Gary, the minus 240-ish favorite in this spot, I do think that makes sense. Bigger cage. He's got room to move. He kind of picks and pokes and death by 1,000 cuts people and works his way to a decision. We've seen that be the case with him before. Jeff Neal, on the other hand, we've seen him chase people. We've seen him not be able to cut the cage off. He's a big Chris Curtis. Like this guy will chase you around the cage and get frustrated when you won't fight with him. And we've seen that be a problem for him. However, he does have the tools. He does have the frame. He is big enough that when he does catch his man, he hits hard. And we've seen Ian Gary wobbled before. We've seen Ian Gary rocked before. We've seen both these guys finished. And I think especially with the heat coming into this one, especially with the emotion that we're seeing out of Jeff Neal, we could see an emotional fight. I thought that Ian Gary by decision was probably the most likely outcome for this fight. It probably still is. But I could see, remember I talked earlier about how it's difficult to finish a fighter that's not there to fight, that's not there to get finished. That's kind of Neal. He'll shut down. Partway through the fight, when he realizes he's going to lose, he kind of turtles up and goes into defense mode and just doesn't let you get anything big off on him. In this fight, I think he's going to be looking for blood. I think there's a real good chance this fight goes under. 2.5, you get plus 110 on the under 2.5. And Ian Gary has all the finishing tools in the world, but he will take the path of least resistance. Now, if someone like Neal comes charging at him and rocks and wobbles him on the feet, is he going to take the path of least resistance? There isn't one. He's going to have to throw. And I think if we get that kind of a fight, somebody's going down. So I've kind of changed my tune on this one a little bit, but only on the total. I do still think Ian Gary's probably the side in this spot. I am rooting my ass off for Jeff Neal. I would love to see him club this guy's head and take him down a peg just because of the stuff that he's pulled and the shit that he's said in the media. He's that guy, right? Like I know he's the betting side, but I definitely still am out to get him. I want to see him get knocked out. So I'm rooting for Jeff Neal, but an under in this fight, surprisingly enough, might be fun. One thing of note for you guys, I have mentioned the submission prowess, the growing submission prowess of Ian Gary for some time. This number has moved pretty aggressively. He's down to like 7 or 8 to 1 now for Ian Gary by sub. And Jeff Neal's been subbed twice. He worked at Shoot a Box for this fight, so we know he's working with Charles Oliveira. There's that video of him actually getting shown how to like have a Darce choke set up or an anaconda choke set up by Charles Oliveira. That could come into play in this fight, especially as one of these guys gets hurt or rocked on the feet. We don't usually see level changes from either of these fighters, but if you don't like getting hit, you probably will shoot. So I do think there's a chance there's some grappling in this fight. I haven't bet Ian Gary by sub this week, and I've bet it like the last 3 fights in a row. So it's going to hit because I've called it for like the entire career of Ian Gary, and I'm not betting it this week. You should bet it because that means it's probably going to hit. That's just how I run right now. Paulo Costa is your co-main event, taking on Rob Whittaker. Both guys made 185 pounds. And shockingly enough, there was no shenanigans with Paulo Costa. In fact, there is a very notable, very tangible lack of shenanigans from Paulo Costa this entire week. There's no memes. There's no quirky one-liners. There's no nothing. He's not goofing around. It's not your personal problem. Like, he made weight. He did all the work. And on top of that, he's been very respectful. He bowed to Rob at the face-offs. Like, I mean, it's so weird. Like, the sober Costa meme might be real. This guy's got his shit together for this fight. And quite frankly, that has me interested because I've thought Paulo Costa has always been a guy that will never live up to his own hype because he just doesn't take it seriously. I think he's more of a sensation than he is a fighter. I think he's more of a social media star than he is a fighter. Like, obviously, he's got the physicality, he's got the physique, he's got the skill set, but he just was never able to harness and capture all of that. But if he comes in Saturday the way he's come in this whole week, where everything is absolutely just work oriented and focused, if we get the guy that fought Yoel Romero a couple of years ago, that Paulo Costa can probably win this fight. And it looks to me like he may well have taken this fight the most serious he's taken anything in his life. Again, bird's eye view, right? Me sitting on the outside looking at him, but just from everything we've ever seen from Paulo Costa, this is different. Now, Robert Whittaker, not a damn thing's different whatsoever. This guy is the nicest, smiliest guy outside the cage and the biggest savage on the planet as soon as that cage door is closed. I love Robert Whittaker. We've talked for years about his durability failing him. He's coming off a really bad knockout loss in his last fight, and that's something that cannot be ignored. So Rob is sitting over minus 200 again at this spot. And the question is, will he be able to handle the brute physical nature of Paulo Costa in a 15-minute fight? I think Paulo not having to worry about his cardio for 25 minutes is probably an advantage. I think he's more of a 15-round fighter than he is a 25-minute fighter, whereas Robert Whittaker could potentially be the opposite. Robert Whittaker has been around forever, been on top of the sport forever, accumulated absolute piles worth of damage. And he's had some scary moments. You know, he's been rocked in a lot of these fights recently, even against guys that maybe shouldn't be hurting him, and then nailing the coffin when Dricus du Plessis just kind of walked through him. I'm kind of getting close to talking myself into a Paulo Costa bet this week, guys. I'm telling you. It's kind of terrifying for me. I don't like Paulo Costa. I've talked about him being almost fraudulent in nature with the way his career has gone. He's never really taken on people that were caliber, in my opinion. Yoel Romero was about to leave the UFC when he had that 15-minute war with him. He got absolutely dumped by Israel Adesanya. The Marvin Vettori fight, he had the whole shenanigans moving up an extra weight class on short notice because he couldn't get his shit together. And then who doesn't knock out Luke Rockhold at this stage of their career? Like after that fight, Luke went to bare knuckle FC and he got knocked out immediately by Mike Perry, like 2 punches in. He was like, "No, I'm done." Mike Perry's a 170 pounder, folks. Like I know he's on all the good shit, but if 205-pound Luke Rockhold couldn't punch hard enough to make Luke quit, but 170-pound Mike Perry could. Like something's wrong there. You know what I mean? But I've gone back and I've done some more work on Paulo Costa, and like you look at the head kick that he landed on Yoel Romero. I don't know if Robert Whitaker at this day and age takes that kick. So very intriguing fight. I think 2 years ago, this is an easy peasy Robert Whitaker spot, but I do worry a little bit about the durability at this point. You guys know me at this stage of the game. Usually if I'm flip-flopping, usually if I'm questioning, I tend to just leave it alone at that stage. But this has become a dog or pass situation here for me. Paulo Costa in the co-main event might get just a little bit of my money come Saturday. And the knockout prop, let's take a look. Let's see what the number is on Paulo by KO because uh plus 350. I think it was plus 400 earlier in the week. So that number's come down just a little bit. Yeah, I think he's also a guy that likes to work with his hands because I know Paulo Costa, technically speaking, I believe is a black belt, but he's only got one sub on his entire record. And frankly, I think that's a tall order to sub Robert Whitaker. I had Dricus Duplessis to get it done via sub, and he tried. Oh boy, did he try for me. But I don't know if Paulo's slick enough to pull that off. I think it would be a KO if anything. John saying over 1.5. I don't mind it. I do not mind it because they probably go to war in this fight, but not immediately, right? Like they probably take a little bit of time to feel each other out. So I don't mind that over 1.5 one bit. It's a little bit chalky, a little bit pricey, but yeah, it probably hits. All right, everybody. Main event time. We've got over 220 live viewers. Thank you again all for being here for the Undefeated post weigh-in show. Trying to pick the energy up for you guys. I'm going to owe you guys some fireball shots soon or something like that to make up for this piss poor performance from me being sick. So I apologize. Champ Alexander Volkanovski, 145.5, taking on Ilia Topuria, who also made 145.5 pounds. I was worried about this weight cut for Ilia. He's had a bit of a tough time making 145 a couple times in the past. He got it together. He made it no problem this time. Things you love to see. So the fight is on. No drama, no question marks. Ilia literally went full McGregor this week. And I got to tell you guys, I don't think it's a great look on him. I love Ilia Topuria. I love his quiet confidence. I love the power that he carries. I love the way he carries himself as a human being. And him trying so hard to be McGregor. And I mean everything. Dropping the red panty night, stealing the belt. I mean, like he is following the full playbook from Conor McGregor. It really just for me kind of makes it a cheap look. I know he's doing what he can. I know he's headlining a card. He's trying to make a splash, but it's like, damn, man, like get just talk to your team, get just a little bit of creativity in there, tweak it just a little bit. Because the teacher absolutely knows whose homework you copied on this one. And I'm not a fan of that. I get it. There's not a whole lot of things that you could do, but I wish you would have gotten a little bit more creative than just do the exact same shit that Connor did. But regardless, has nothing to do with the fight. This fight's fun, man. For me, guys, it comes down to one thing and one thing only, is that we are taking Alexander Volkanovski in his weight class. Now, in 48 hours, this might be Ilia Topuria's weight class. It might be. He might take the damn belt. That's entirely possible. But Alexander Volkanovski at pick'em odds, minus 120, minus 125. I got minus 125. You can't turn that down. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, that argument doesn't make sense when he was a plus 200 dog in his last fight. The reason it makes sense is because that fight was against the literal champion at 155. So it's a full weight class up against a guy who frankly is a weight bully and could probably fight at 170 if he wanted to. Like big size difference between those two guys. And full camp Volkanovski is completely different from no camp Volkanovski. There's a question about durability. I understand that. Volkanovski has been knocked out once or twice in his career. He has been rocked a couple of times before, but the way he mixes his game, the leg kicks, the takedowns, the scrambles, the volume, like this guy just does everything so well, so correctly that I'm not ready to believe that just because he got killed by a guy up a weight class off the couch, that he's just suddenly shot. I don't think that's true. He had a full weight camp or not weight cut, training camp. He had a full training camp to prepare for Ilia Topuria coming in here into this fight. And I think that makes all the difference for a guy like Volkanovski. He's so freaking smart. He thrives on his brain. He thrives on his game plan. Like, you go back and watch the Max fights. Is it because he's such an insane athlete when compared to Max Holloway? No, it's because he had a perfect game plan and he used it for 25 minutes straight. If there's ever a human being that you can count on to follow a game plan, it's freaking Volkanovski. So I like Volk here in this spot. Ilia is explosive. Ilia is fast. His boxing is incredible. People don't know how good of a grappler he is. He truly is a grappling monster as well, but he doesn't use it very offensively more often than not. He's definitely a guy that's opportunistic. He takes advantages of scrambles and things of that nature. But I think Volkanovski could just death by 1,000 cuts this kid. I think we might see a vintage Volkanovski performance where this thing goes late. I do worry about Ilia Topuria's gas tank. We've seen him get tired before in 15-minute fights, and that's something I think concerning in a 25-minute fight, especially when you're fighting a guy that's going to try to drag you deep. We just saw Jack Hermanson last week and do this kind of a game plan where wait out those first couple of rounds, survive, chip away at him, wear him down just a little bit, and then he's not as dangerous late deep in the fight. I like Volkanovski, and I like the over 3.5. Minus 135 on the over 3.5. Maybe a little bit more than I'd like to play there in that spot, but I think they kind of go hand in hand. If Volkanovski is the one winning this, it's probably going deep. I don't expect Volkanovski to like turn the tables on Ilia and just like crack his skull in the first or second round. That's not his style. That's not the way he's ever fought. Hi, Jacqueline. So I really think this fight is going deep, and I think you've got to go with Volk in his weight class. Again, this might be the last time, folks, you get plus money on Ilia Topuria. You can flip that script on me. You could do it immediately as quickly as you want to. This could be the last time you get plus money on Ilia Topuria at 145 pounds. And if you want to take that angle, that makes perfect sense to me as well, and you can run with it. But when you've got a guy who is the GOAT, who's the king, who's the champ, who is undisputed and has beaten everybody for years and years, cleaned out the division twice, I'm taking him at even money. It's that simple. I'm taking that guy at even money until he loses. So if he gets by Ilia Topuria and he's even money in his next fight, I'll do it again. Like, until Volkanovski loses his crown in his own damn division, I'm betting Alexander Volkanovski. Folks, that's the Undefeated post weigh-in show. My nose is running like crazy. I got to get off here so I can blow it without grossing you guys out on the microphone. Thank you all so much for sticking with me. Hit the like button. I'm going to post up all the official plays either later tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. I'm going to try and just down some meds and sleep like a baby and snore so loud it wakes up my wife and daughter tonight. That's the game plan. So that way I can do some fireball shots tomorrow. I want to cash tickets. I'm tired of this bullshit. I've had a bad run to start the year so far. We got plenty of time. We'll turn it around, but I'm going to go root for my Coyotes. Thank you guys in the chat one more time. John, Nunya, Romero, Mark, appreciate you all. And obviously all the other 230 of you that I wasn't able to rattle off right then and there. Love and appreciate you guys too. Go watch Narcos show. I'm going to turn on my Coyotes, and then I'm going to go watch the Lambo Plays podcast myself as well. So get out of here. Love you guys. Let's roll.